Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. So yesterday, we saw the visuals on social media where protest that was organized by the Take It Back movement over the proclamation of state of emergency in Rivers State, as well as the alleged misuse of the Cybercrime Act and the hardship within the country was attacked. The protesters were attacked by, according to some of the visuals we saw, and they were stopped from protesting by the police. So, of course, the country director of Amnesty International, Issa Sanusi, has called out the government, saying that people have a voice and they should be allowed to express their voice. He cited the fact that the protests that happened in August as well as in October last year all witnessed a level of obstruction of the protest, that globally what the police should do is to protect the protesters, prevent it from getting hijacked, and ensure that the protest takes place peacefully. That attacking peaceful protesters is something that they at Amnesty International disagree with. The protest took place across majority of states in Nigeria, except Kano, Benue, Taraba, Kogi, Sokoto, and others. But we saw more of the engagement within police. There were tear gas being shot at the protesters. The videos from Rivers State didn't look good at all. So our conversation is, how should protests be handled by the police? Do we think what the videos we saw, does it look good? We'd like to hear from you what your opinion is. Should we be having this protest? Are this protests being hijacked politically? Should the police be attacking or dispersing protesters the way they've done? Join the conversation by calling us on 0201 635 2013, or you can call us on 090-24163 440. Tweet to us or comment on our YouTube live stream ongoing. We'd love to hear from you. So YK took it very, very personal when she was doing the newspaper review because of the video of a journalist also getting caught in the issue with in Rivers State. What was your opinion of well, you shared your opinion. What do you think we could have done better though?
I think, like you said, the police, their own is to be protecting the protesters and make sure that there is no disturbance. Once there is no disturbance, then everything is fine. Let me go back to NSAS. During the NSAS riots, most of those protesters were peaceful. They were peaceful for days on end. They were jollophing, yes, they disturbed people from going to their, but that's protests. Protests cannot satisfy everybody. Now, the thing became violent after the police came and attacked. Was it police or soldiers? I can't even remember. The protesters, and that's when it became violent, and that's when it escalated, and TVC became a victim. I remember because Mien was there
in Lekki
when it happened. And see Mien taken to his heels. So it now affected everybody. The police... Look, I'm not even sure that till today the police stations have been built.
Fully recovered.
They haven't. A lot of policemen became homeless. Now that's because of the way they decided to tackle the protesters. Everybody has a right. I mean, I was watching a TV station yesterday where they said, look, should be in America, they've been protesting against Donald Trump. And it's not even like our own that it was just a small amount of people that came out. Thousands of people have been... And Donald Trump, you know, he doesn't even like dissent in any way. But they're not born him. They didn't born in his generation to go and start using police to come and be attacking them. It's not possible. It's your constitutional right as a human being.
But when the protest is being organized by a known someone who has political interest, doesn't that taint the protest the look of the protest is already tainted because that protest is sort of like being led by Take It Back movement. Showore contested, you know, at a point in time. And because of that, if he leads a protest, it's no longer a protest about whatever it is, about the fact that this is a political partial person. Do you think that could have influenced the response the protesters got?
So when the agendas are read out, it's about, you know, bad policies, the hardship and all of that. So Showore, yes, contested, but we're not in election season. This is not immediately post-election that you think he's contesting the office. We are contesting a lot of things, and it might be in preparation for the next election where you're sensitizing the people to not vote the same people who are in charge of government into office. But this is not one of such. I think that this process, wherever it is valid. Around the world right now, there are protests. There's a take it back. What are they telling the capitalists in America now? Is it take it back or let it go? They say hands off. That's hands off to the capitalists who Elon Musk and the president who are, obviously glutoning over the resources of the US. And so there are protests happening around the world. So I must give kudos the flowers of Lagos State. Lagos State, come and collect your flowers, because what we saw in Rivers State did not happen in Lagos. Lagos has been burnt before, and they have seen it. So what their police and NSCDC and the neighborhood watch did, you see them, they were the ones protecting protesters, and they did the entire work with them, supporting them. The last time they had a protest in August, I think the August 1st one, the commissioner of police then, they brought water, food, everything, and joined the protest. Because what Lagos has experienced is that if people are going to hijack a protest, there's a possibility that they are looking to blame the police for that hijack, which is what happened during NSAS. There was already sensitizing. Governor was warning. The governor was the first to engage. He was warning that this was possibly hijack, and we cannot pretend that this is Nigeria. This is not America. People usually try to hijack. What we suffered, what we went through during that protest, we know that there were unseen elements behind it. Yes, so we know. So we cannot even play down that fact. But Lagos has now learned that this is when they are on opposing ends trying to fight those people that the innocent suffer. So now they join the innocent and protest when people are tired and they go back, or that the matters are resolved. And so, which is what I saw. I watched the news carefully yesterday to see whether any such will happen, and it didn't happen here. But in Rivers State, it happened to the extent that, as YK said, sister station, how will I call it, another station's journalist had to be saying, I'm not, in trying to report it, and the police, in their usual manner, of course, were doing that. And they had military involved. Protests are in democratic setting, because we are not in Saudi Arabia, we are not in an Emirate, because the Muslims will not say anybody supporting protests.
We're not in military.
We are not in an, in Emirates, in Islamic, protests are not encouraged. That's not the way to reach your government. But this is Nigeria, and we practice democracy, and we practice the presidential system copied from the US, where activism, protesting, and all of that were the standard of the day. And so that is how you influence policy change, you influence policy review, or you influence policy at all. And so people will do protests. And when they do it here, it should be, allowed and permitted, and guidelines should be put in place, including safety measures. In case there should be a fire ambulance, in case of anything, there should be medical ambulances, hospital ambulances, in case of any medical need. And I'll encourage that protest till the decision makers listen and change whatever the people want changed. Because we are not in office.
Before you go, I just going to say something. I want us to remember in 2011, during the fuel subsidy riots, most of the leaders that are in government today were inside that protest that time. They were marching. And nobody disturbed them from their protests. In fact, we were all involved. Myself, I went to the protest ground. I remember. And there was no...
they were not stopped from
we were not stopped at the time.
Yes.
So there was tolerance for protesters. And it was a very serious protest. I remember that time.
Let me hear Amaka.
Yes, which is exactly what I wanted to say, in the sense that you cannot, as a government, pick and choose. Yes, what works for you, what doesn't work for you, especially in a democratic setting. People have constitutional rights that enable them to have a peaceful assembly and protest and gather. And you cannot take that away from them. And people must speak up, because as a government, how do you want to get feedback of what is working or what is not working? You're here to serve the people. You need to get feedback of okay, like you're saying that an opposition party was the one that championed this. It doesn't matter. Yeah, but let's be factual. When the agenda was read, everything that is being that they are protesting against is a reality.
Yes,
it's a reality. It's not. There are no made-up points there. People are going through hardship, the dollar rates, prices of food items. There's insecurity. There's marginalization. A lot is happening, right? And someone has to speak up. And when we speak up, and if you don't like the protest, then work towards changing the narrative. Yes, so it has nothing to do with opposition. Whether he's the one that championed it, another group will still come up. And what I expect the police from our precedents and from everything that's happened in terms of attacking police brutality against protesters, they should know better. I expect them to be able to work with these different groups and say, okay, how can we help? Let's make sure that nobody hijacks this. What is needed? Like Nima said, there should be ambulance in case there's an emergency. Why are you opening tear gas on people that are protesting peacefully? How is that a solution? Because when you attack somebody and then there's chaos, anything can happen, and then before you know it, there's fight and so on. I'm happy that we didn't get to that point. But why are you opening tear gas on people that are protesting peacefully for their rights, for a better Nigeria?
So I hear you, and we'll take a break, and when we come back, I would I love what Nima said. There is a template that can work, and it worked. We saw a template that worked last year in Lagos. It worked again yesterday. The protest was allowed in a way that was still curtailed in being small, but they were not in any way harassed. There was no fighting or pushing or disturbing them from being able to protest. So it means if you can work in one state, you can work in all states. We'll discuss the things that, the lessons that can be learned from how Lagos handled the protest after we return from this break. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. We're still discussing the protests, taking back protest movement that took place around Nigeria yesterday, and the resultant police and how the police affected the protest. And we were talking about the template of what's happened in Lagos and how Lagos State Police Command managed protesters in a way that they cannot say that they've been harassed. They cannot say, even when whenever the protest ends, the police and the protesters will shake hands and say bye-bye. If he works in Lagos, it means he could have worked in Rivers State. So what are the lessons concerning how Lagos has handled protests? Well, could it be because Lagos suffered the huge suffering in 2020 that the trainings, yes, that there were a lot more trainings for how to handle protests? And I noticed that in the north, because of what happened last year, the last protest that took place, because they also really suffered, they did not even allow any protest at all this year. How do we find that balance that we...
Thank God that you mentioned the north. You know, right now the north is boiling in Benue. The bandits killing people. One of the advocated item was, you know, ending banditry, improving security during this protest, and I was pained
that they did not allow
that
the
they didn't protest. Why wouldn't they allow a protest? Sometimes protest is not just talking. It's not until we're talking to government that we protest. You could be protesting against the bandits themselves. You could be protesting against the evil itself. You know, so why wouldn't they allow that protest? Why are they not protesting in Kano? Is it, you know, I don't understand. You know, that thing happened in the politicized protest too much. Protest necessarily doesn't have to be about the person in office. It doesn't have to be, we could be protesting an evil. So maybe something evil is happening in the country.
I don't think it was that they did not allow it. The news does not carry that they didn't allow it. It's that the protest did just not take place.
It didn't take place there. We don't see videos.
There wasn't protest. It wasn't based on that they were not allowed. They didn't show up.
So that's the point I'm making. The people, I'm talking about the people not considering this protest. Maybe they didn't get, maybe because it was a Twitter gathering anyway. They gathered from Twitter and went to the street. That's why I saw it. Because, you know, Showore's platform. And so maybe they didn't hear it. But they have pressing issues up north. More pressing issues up north that, you know, they should have been on the streets. Edo, the people of Uromi had complained too much about kidnapping, raping of their people in the farms. Why were there no protests in Edo? Why do we choose certain places? Does Showore, who is behind this protest, not know the pressing peculiar issues per state? Why are there not people in those areas that are also following? Protest doesn't have to be about who is in office. That's the way I see it. If it is about only about who don't like,
angle, and I like
what I want is that we have our peculiar pressing issues. Edo has a peculiar one all the way to Auchi in the farms. People no longer go to farms. It's not safe anymore. And so they should have protests in such places, gatherings where government, where they're telling government, this is priority, this is number one, you must face this one first.
But somebody needs to organize it. Let me take this phone call, I'll come to you. Good morning, welcome to the show, David. Hello, David, can you hear us? David, we can't hear you. Oh, what's going on? All right, sadly we lost that call. So, but YK, I love what Enima was going to.
Yeah, but I wanted to say, Showore's funds are limited. Showore's reach is limited. If it was NLC now that organized that protest, you would have been in Edo. So you have to give. You have to give Showore his flowers for even trying.
To be able to convince people
to
step out.
Because how many of us on this table safe? Or inside this studio, how many of us came out? None of us now. So it was
until yesterday. Online. I didn't even know.
I didn't even know there was protest. Shame me, I don't go to social media.
So, it's yesterday that I was following that.
It's as if you abuse me on social media, I will not even notice because I'm never there. So what I'm trying to say is, so he but if it was because I'm glad you brought up the Uromi,
the issues, each issue should be each issue raised should have people without being galvanized step out to protest the issue. But let me take David. David is back.
Okay.
Hello, David, you're live. Hello. Do we have David there? We're not understanding what is going on, but David will be waiting
we will soon protest the network. These networks will soon protest
because this week the network has been
misbehaving. And so, like what Nima said is totally correct. Like, you know, but coming back to what you asked earlier about opposition party, it should not be about any party or whoever. If something is happening in your state, in your local government, you should be able to come out and protest so that whoever is in charge can see, and then something can be done about that, right?
But there's need for galvanizers.
Yeah, there's also need for galvanizers, right? But if something is not, if you're not being directly affected by a particular thing,
you won't feel it.
You won't really feel. Yes. You won't really feel. What the protest about yesterday is the general thing that is affecting everybody. But like she said, in the north, they know what's going on there, and she made me laugh when she said, you know, it's a Twitter campaign, so maybe the people in the north did not hear it. Let's not enter that one. That one
on Twitter.
That one, what do they call that thing? When someone says
she threw akara,
and he hits them, but no problem. So they don't do Twitter, no problem.
Then
but he might not know like what's happening in Uromi. Right? Yeah. So someone from Uromi or people that have been affected will come up. No, they don't even need to. They cannot come up and volunteer and say, okay, we want to be part of this, but this is our own challenge. This is the problem we are facing. Maybe we are farmers and we don't have food insecurity, or maybe we're not lacking food in Uromi.
But we have bandits.
This is what we have. This is on this agenda. This is what we're protesting. In Osun, different people.
They have their issues and they would bring up their issues.
They were interviewing one of the protesters in Lagos. And he was talking about the Oroshoki demolition.
Exactly.
The Oroshoki demolition concerned them in Abuja. Did it concern them? It didn't concern them.
The challenges are local.
The challenges are local. And so when he was talking, he talked about the general one and then said, even the demolition. And when I was like, I quickly checked. Oh, yes, along the waterways, along the water channels, Lagos is
Let me take this call. Sorry.
So talk the one that concern you.
Welcome to the show.
Join protest just to hate somebody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure being with you this morning.
And,
on the issue of protest, I think it's been quite unfortunate that in Nigeria, or not just in Nigeria, because so many people use US as a yardstick. There has been quite a lot of protests in the US that were suppressed, even while their students were, campaigning against the Gaza genocide or what have you. But in Nigeria, the current situation is that so many people take advantage of little opportunity, and when people protest, you have a large chunk of people who are ready to, hijack that protest. And I think that's one of the things that makes the police also misbehave. Because I've been part of many protests. I see people, trying to even face the police that are just meant to protect both protesters and the general public. And also, I think it is wrong for us to protest and block roads while we deprive other road users their rights, their freedom. And these are things that causes most of these issues. Unfortunately, too, the government almost gets unpopular all the time because of their fear of escalation. And so I think what we need to do, like what Lagos has done, trying to make sure that all security outfits join the protest, protect the people.
Keep it peaceful.
But I can tell you, if we get a larger crowd, that may not also work in Lagos. So we will be appealing to the government itself to listen to very little details of the people when they demand and try to fix all these things. It is not rocket science.
Thank you so much.
To have a nation where people can get the dividends of democracy.
Thank you, and fruits of the government. Thank you so much, David, for bringing the validity of the police, because for those whose things got looted, for those whose shops get looted, for those that they just drove their trailer mistakenly past when
and they burnt their cows.
Yes, when a protest is going on and their rice, bags of rice were looted, those people would be happy to have the police quell and stop protests from taking place, because they would feel like it might get hijacked, which is why I said let's study the Lagos template. But YK, we're rounding off.
I was going to watch.
I cannot remember what you want to say because I'm not excited.
You want to say something?
But in conclusion,
I drink 50 plus of 60.
Abi?
What did you do?
You just cut me off.
Please go on, Joe.
I was talking about the Uromi.
Yes.
They have been protesting for months about the insecurity in their place, where people are being killed. Where I don't agree that it was right, they took the law into their own hands. What are they doing? They're now arresting all and sundry. But yes, you are involved in the killing of those people.
The police are now upgrading them, defrauding them now, forcing them to
no, but they've already changed some things after that news broke. We must acknowledge the police when they do what is right, just as we call them out when they do what is wrong. So we are calling out the police in Rivers State, the administrator in charge of River State, for how they've handled the protest. It could have been managed better. In a peaceful protest where they did not carry arms, no tear gas should have been fired. They should have been kept in line, protected and watched, and they work with them all through that protest, because the truth is every police officer is also facing the challenge that we're talking about.
Exactly.
Banditry is affecting them. The hardship within the country, cost of living going high has affected them as well. We know what we want is peaceful protest. We don't want it to be hijacked. We don't want looting, but we need to find the healthy balance to these things.
In River State, part of the protest was the administrator should go. And they should bring their governor back. So maybe that is why they just dabaroo them. But they should be allowed to talk, because whether you like it or not, Fubara was democratically elected.
Exactly.
So even if you don't agree, let them protest. When they finish and they go, you cannot explain.
They should come and copy Lagos templates.
Yes, copy Lagos templates. That's the end. But we need to canvass. We need leaders. We need canvassers. I remember my estate's elections took place because the leader within my community galvanized all of us to say, you need to show up and vote for who is our next chairman. And so a lot of us walked down to the election place because we had a leader that galvanized. We need community leaders. We need people should take responsibility. Little by little, we can bring about major change when they realize that whatever is happening, nobody's keeping quiet about it. We shouldn't have to be scared in our country. We shouldn't have to be unable to eat, 3 square meal in our country. But that's what we can take on this segment. We have a packed Healthy Tuesday show for you. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.